We got a great show for you tonight. We got SaundraGolden of Mother Daughter Strong. Stay tuned.
Talking Junk Network,
where entertainment lives.
Welcome to Talking Junk.
I'm your host, Jason Melendez.
Live now every week on Fridays.
Talking Junk.
A multitude of professionals in different aspects, different walks of life.
You have to come on and talk junk like a normal person.
Tonight's episode is brought to you by the good people at Heaven's Pantry and their Excalibur. 6 simple ingredients makes the perfect vegan brownie. Cashews, almonds, cocoa powder, coconut oil, and sea salt are the only ingredients you need throughout your day. Pick up your chocolate energy bar now on Amazon and use the promo code HP Street to get 20% off your first order, and then Talk Junk 69 to get 10% off every order after. Don't miss out. Get yours today. And we are also brought to you by the Dizzle brand original premium liqueur. This thing is amazing, and I stand by my words. I say it every episode. This stuff mixes with everything. It is a liqueur only because it is cognac and tequila mixed with hints of mango margarita, citrus notes. It is the wonderful accent to any drink that you can think of. If you can find something that mixes wrong with Dizzle, hit me up on IG. I'll put my foot in my mouth because I'm telling you now, we drink this every single episode. I say this every week. All we do is Dizzle. All we do is Dizzle. Welcome to Talking Junk, the podcast that comes to you live every Friday night. I'm your host, Jason Melendez, and I got a wonderful guest for you tonight again. Every week, we're going to come with the most wonderful guests, the most insightful guests to get your brain firing on this Friday night. Because what else do you want to do? You want to go out and rot your brain, or you want to stay here? Get this loving for 45 minutes, maybe half an hour, depending on how it goes. You know what I mean? Sometimes we can get the Spitfire information going and get it all to you. Sometimes we take our time. Let's see how it goes. Miss Saundra, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome, Jason, and thank you for having me on tonight.
No, thank you. I had a cancellation, and you were gracious enough to come on the podcast and let us know about what you got going on with Mother Daughter Strong.
Well, I'm SaundraGolden. I'm the author of Make It Stop, a young woman's guide to overcome or prevent dating abuse. I also have a coaching program called Mother Daughter Strong, where I teach mothers how to build strong, solid bonds with their daughters through effective communication. I'm also a speaker and a consultant. So I'm just excited to be here tonight to talk about mothers and daughters becoming strong.
Now, what came first? Did you become a life coach first and then write the book, or did you write
I
the book
wrote the
first?
book first from a life experience.
Okay.
Uh, I was sexually abused when I was a young girl, and then I entered as a teenager into an abusive relationship. And initially, I wrote the book to help young women to understand how they could prevent dating abuse. And if they were someone who had been abused, how they could overcome it, some steps to take. But as I started launching the book, realized that there were no conversations taking place. And that was one of the reasons why some of these things were happening to our little girls, our young women, our teens, was because nobody was talking to them about the things that needed to. When I launched my book, I talked to a lot of people, especially mothers, who were like, I'm getting the book for my teen daughter. She's getting ready to go to college, and I wanted to be prepared. And while some of them had even experienced uh, dating abuse or some form of domestic violence, when I asked, okay, is this going to be, a way that you and your daughter can talk? You can answer questions. They were like, oh, no, I can't tell her that. Oh, no, I'm going to just let her read the book. Well, yeah, you can let her read the book and she can find out, but it's so much more effective if you can be vulnerable with your daughter and have those conversations and try to have them before they get ready to go off to college and everything. So at that point, I decided to create a program through my experience with my daughters. What helped me to be able to communicate with them and form a bond where we can talk about anything. And while my kids are adults, I just had my baby girl who's 26 years old who told me today it's time for us to have another mother daughter date so that we do what we want to do. So we still have that bond. I'm still very active in their lives. And I just think in order for you to be there for your daughter, to have these important conversations and guide them healthy, um, that you have to form that bond. It's more than a relationship, it's a bond because you can have a relationship with anybody.
Right, you can form a relationship with a stranger at a bus stop within
Right.
5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It takes a while to form a bond. Now,
Correct.
when did you notice that you had to break away from all of this and create that bond with them, or was it just second nature?
Was not second nature. Being a teen mom, because I was a single teen mom, after exiting an abusive relationship, I realized that at first I needed to heal myself if I wanted to be a good mother to my daughter. And I needed to look deep inside of me to determine what led to those things happening to me. Why was I so vulnerable to allowing those things to happen, but feeling afraid to confide in someone about them because I couldn't even tell my parents. My parents never knew. They died never knowing that I had been sexually assaulted or abused as a teenager. And so I started college for nursing and then decided, ooh, I really need to get over this trauma. I really need to deal with me and look internally. So at that point, I sort of took a hiatus from nursing and took a year and a half of nothing but psychology classes, uh, talking to professors who were psychologists, counselors, just to try to figure out what was wrong with me and how could I stop it from happening to my daughters. I didn't want to continue with cycle to happen with my little girl that I had. And looking back, there were things that I needed, I yearned for that I didn't get from my parents. Like I had a relationship with my mother, but yet I didn't feel comfortable talking to her about certain things. Um, and in my household, no one ever said, I love you. It wasn't a touchy, touchy, feely. Yes, they were there, they were present, they provided, but there were things that I longed for. And
Right.
there were certain conversations that we just didn't have.
And it's
Uh,
not their fault. It's just the way they
no,
were brought up.
exactly. They parented from a place of what they knew because that's probably how they were parented. So it was
Right. You're
learned
a product of
they
your environment.
exactly. And I get asked that, do you blame your parents? Of course not. They did what they knew to do. It just wasn't enough for me. Um, and so I wanted to be different. So I wanted to make sure I told my kids I love them. I told them uh, how beautiful they were, how smart they was. I built that self-esteem, but it took progress. My oldest daughter she always says to my baby girl, she says, "You have different, you have a different mother than what I had," because she sort of grew with me, and I was learning with her. By the time I had my son, I was a little bit better. And then by the time I had my last child, I was a pro at it. Everything that I had learned along the way through, the psychology courses, talking to those professors and counselors and dealing with things I had, it made me a better mother. But we have a
Right.
bond, we have more than a relationship. So that's sort of my journey as to how I did it. And I wanted to be able to help other mothers, parents to do the same thing because we don't communicate enough with our kids. We sort of talk to them in passing.
So after those psych classes, life coach was just a natural fit.
Yeah. Yep, it
How,
was.
how,
It was.
how long have you had your practice going?
It's been about a year and a half now.
Okay, congratulations.
Thanks.
Uh,
I'm excited about it.
you should be. You should be. It's not an easy thing to do. Break out on
No,
your own and just start a business. It's pretty, especially after the pandemic. It's pretty intimidating. So kudos.
very, very. But it's worth it. It's worth it because if I can help just one mother build that bond with her daughter so that they can communicate effectively with one another, they learn the tools to communicate as well as to listen, then it's all worth it. It's all worth it.
Now, what are some tactics that you use to get mothers and daughters to break the ice and to start that communication?
One of the things is the things that I had to practice with my granddaughter because she has anxiety attacks. She likes to be by herself a lot. So what I did with her is I wanted to be relatable to her. I wanted to also be vulnerable with her. I gave her my book, had her read it so that we could talk about it. But what I did is what things parents can do is find movies that they may like that they can relate to. One of the movies I watched with my granddaughter was Freaky Friday.
Okay.
I asked her, had you ever watched it? She said, no. I said, let's watch it together. She said, okay. And she's somebody who loves to stay on her phone. But I noticed as the movie started, she put her phone down because she could relate to it. Because you're talking about a mom and a daughter who trades places. And
Right.
so then by the experiences in it, I started asking her questions and she asked me questions. So it became where we were talking to each other and we were relating. I asked her, okay, what if this happened to you and you became your mom? Because her mom is a nurse as well. I said, how would you handle that? Because now you've got to go to the hospital and you've got to take care of patients. I said, and your mom has to go to school. She says, I would just die right there. I just couldn't. And then he was like, why? And before you knew it, we had a conversation. We were talking about other things. There were another incident where uh, she likes K-pop. Had never heard of K-pop whatsoever.
Korean pop.
Yes, never heard of it. And so she was on her phone, and I says, "What are you looking at?" And she says, "I'm looking at these groups." And I'm like, "Never seen those groups, never heard of
Like
them." I said, "What
BTS
is
and them groups. Yeah.
exactly?" Yeah.
Yeah, I got a 13-year-old.
Well, she told me, she says, I like this music and da 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 this. And, she started telling me about it. I was asking her questions because I wanted to try to get on her level and, get to know what she liked and everything.
Fit
And so
into her world.
yeah, she started telling me about the music and what it was and everything. And then she made the comment, oh, but you wouldn't like it. So we were in the car together and she had her earbuds in, listening at her music. And I say, hey, what you listening at? I say, you got a playlist? She says, oh, Nana, you're not going to want to listen at the playlist. I say, oh, what are you listening at? She said, my K-pop music. I said, well, let me ask you this. Is it like Beyonce and people like, she says, no, no. She says, it's not. So you're not going to like it. I says, I tell you what, let's hook it up to the car. Let's play what your playlist is. And, she started playing it and I'm over there bopping. I was like, she says, you like this? I said, oh, yeah, I'm getting into it. I said, yeah, I like it. So the whole ride, we were talking about it. She was giving me information. I was telling her about my music and we were just swapping up because when it would play, so I said, oh, that sounds like this. Let me find this on my playlist. And she go, oh, it does sound like that. So I was able to enjoy something that she liked. It was something that we could do together. And it just wasn't about me. It was about her.
Right.
So, that's what we have to do. We have to connect with them and, do some of the things that they like to do, not just what we like to do. Go to movies that they want to go to, because then you can, like I say, have those conversations and things that happen in the movie that happen in real life. You can relate it to them and get their opinion on it. What do you think about it? How do you feel about that? What if that happened to you? Because she was asking me about a movie and she said that somebody had got raped. And I was like, well, if that happened to you, what would you do? Would you tell
Right.
somebody?
That's a heavy question.
Right, because she said the person in the movie did not, tell anybody about it or whatever. I said, well, would you? And she says, I don't know how it reacts. So we were able to talk about that and talk through, what she should do, you know, why she should do it. Uh, the help that she would probably need afterwards because of what it would do. She says, "Yeah, I would be I would be really scared. I don't think I could go out anywhere." So we were able to talk about those feelings and you can gauge it. And that's what we need to do. We don't have those conversations. And then a lot of times we don't validate their feelings. We brush them off. They come to tell us something and we're not listening. We pick up one word or one sentence they said, then we want to run with the response
Right.
instead
And
of
we're
listening.
all guilty of it.
I've been guilty of it because, I tell them, hey, what I used to do, they start talking, and in my mind, it's like, okay, I'm ready for that response. I'm ready to give you that response. And I'm giving you a response to something that I shouldn't because I haven't really effectively listened at you.
Right.
I haven't actively listened. I haven't made a concerted effort to listen at how you're feeling, what you're saying, what your body language is. So then when I do give a response, I can. And all the time, they don't want advice. They just want to be heard.
Right.
Yeah, they want their feelings to be validated.
Now, do you do just one-on-one mother-daughter sessions, or do you do group sessions as well? Like have different mother-daughter?
Right now I'm doing one-on-one. I do plan to move into group, but right now it's just one-on-one.
What are some of the things that you do to determine how far gone the relationship between the mother and daughter really is?
Before I even take somebody on, there's questions so that we know where they're at, what it is they want to achieve. And then we make the determination from that. Sometimes it'll cause tweaking my program a little bit to fit exactly their specific need. And that's why right now it's individual, because every mother has an individual need with their daughter, because everybody's daughter is different. They're unique. So you may be one place with your daughter, and this person may be another. So it's easier right now just to do the one on one.
Right.
Some parents even prefer that their daughter is there with them. And then I have a workbook to give exercises for them to do, different things to do with their daughters, or things to think about that they can implement. Um, you know, this week I want you to initiate a conversation with your daughter, no matter what it is, and they have a guide that they can go by with different things that can help them initiate that conversation. And then when they come back the next week, we can talk about how it went, how did what were some obstacles they had, and then we can work through those so that then they can go back and try those things again.
Have you thought at any point of expanding maybe to a father-daughter or father-son relationships also?
I've thought about doing it as parents in general, because basically what you can use with your daughters, you can use the same things with your son. Because of course I have a son, he's sandwiched in the middle of my two daughters. I basically did the same thing with him, you know. And his wife told me one time, she says, your son really values what you say, because she says, I'll say something and he'll go, hmm, I'm gonna need to run that by my mama. And he will call me and ask me, he will call me and ask me things. Um, but I love it. I value that. I value the relationship I have with them. There are times when all of us spend time together, and then there's times when they need their own individual time uh, to talk to me because it's like a one-on-one. They don't want the other siblings to know at that particular time. So you have to, even though you do family things together, your kids still need that individual time alone with you.
Right, and we as parents, we tend to forget that. We tend to think just family time is enough, and
Right.
it's really not. To nurture them the way they should be nurtured, you have to give them that one-on-one.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's really important for us to be vulnerable with them the older they get, because a lot of times the experiences that they have, we have similar experiences, or we've had them,
Right.
and I think sometimes we want our kids to think we're perfect, we don't make mistakes, we know everything, when in fact a lot of times, especially if you're a new parent, it's your first child, you're learning as you go. So, being vulnerable, saying, hey, I can relate to that. I understand how you feel. I was in a similar situation. Let me tell you what happened to me and how I probably could have handled it differently. You're not telling them what to do. You're just relating to them your experience and what you could have done differently. Some parents, you have that tendency to dictate. You want to
Right.
tell them everything to do, but you have to allow them at some point to make some decisions on their own. Uh, my thing is, if I like to compromise, a lot of parents say, I'm not going to compromise. I'm the parent and they're going to do what I say. Well, my thing is, if it's not going to cause them or anyone else harm, they'll be able to keep their values and their morals, then why not compromise? One of the things with my baby girl, when she went to the prom, she bought a purple dress. That's what she wanted, her purple dress. That was her favorite color.
Okay.
She wanted to dye her hair purple to go with it. Immediately in my mind is like, I cannot let you dye your hair purple. I could. So I started asking questions like, have you thought about this and how it's going to look? And are we talking about a permanent color or are we talking a rinse? And she says, I think I want a permanent color. And so then my question, okay, have you thought about this? What if you dye it purple and it doesn't really come out the way you think it's going to come out? Then what? Oh, I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Well, I didn't want to tell her no. So I told her, I said, I tell you what, you think about it. Let's take a week. You think about it a week. Think about everything that could be right about it. Think everything that could be wrong about it. And I'm going to think about it for a week too. And then we're going to discuss it. She said, okay. Well, in my week, I was trying to find out and think about how I could convince her
To not get this hair color.
with her. Exactly.
Right.
And I was talking to one of my friends and she says, you can get clip-ins. I said, what do you mean clip-ins? She says, go to the beauty supply store and you can get clip-ins where you can clip it in your hair and it's purple. It doesn't have to stay. They can comb it and you won't even see the clips. I was like, you're joking. She says, no. I went, I found them. So I told her, I says, have an idea. I says, how about you put these purple clips in and let's see how that look and will you be okay with that? I say that way if you don't like it, the clips will just come out or if you just want to wear it for that night. So she put them in her hair and she says, I'm just going to walk around with it. She said, because I may need some more because I only just bought a few. And so she says, okay. So she turns around and she says, after a couple of days, she says, you know what? I think I don't want to color my hair purple. She says, I think if I get maybe 2 or 3 more clips that I can just make it look like it's purple streaks through my hair. And I'm going to be good with that. And I was like, are you sure? And in my mind, I'm like, please let her be sure. Please let her be sure.
Get
She
that
said,
reverse psychology going. That's when them psych classes came in.
exactly. It was her decision, So,
With a little coaching from mother.
exactly. Yeah. But I'd never say, no, you're not going to do that. How dare you think I'm going to let you color it? Because now she's not going to come back to me. She may go off somewhere and get it colored purple and then come back just to spite me because I said, I don't want you to do it. It wasn't going to hurt anything. Even if she did die, it wasn't, I mean, she might have been upset if it didn't come out right, but it was her choice. It was her decision.
Oh, excuse me. Right, we went through those colors too: purple, pink, green, blue. We went through them all too.
Oh
So
yeah, the
I feel
burgundy. Yeah, yeah.
you. And
Yeah, I
then when it
colored
doesn't
my
come
hair
out, it
burgundy. Yeah,
ends up a
well,
different color.
now see, that's what happened to me. I had this color shade in my mind, but when I told the hairstylist when it came out, I was like, that's not quite what I pictured, but then I was stuck with it. So
Right.
that's when it was sort of like, I don't want you to have to go through that if you don't want to, because it's going to take some time if you're doing permanent colors. So, but yeah, we
That
have
it
to stay
is.
still. Yeah,
We don't notice much of the lessons that we learn in life are just like the hair dye. They,
exactly.
if you use the wrong things, it's gonna be a
Exactly.
permanent scar.
Yeah,
And we're learning that now. 'Cause we were going to these
right.
ACEs classes together, and
Yes.
we're learning a lot there. Is
Yeah,
any of that helping you in your practice?
it is. It is. It's happened a lot because you're learning that a lot of things from your past is what really affects you in the future. Uh, Same way with mothering. Uh, you usually will mother the way you were mothered unless you find out that it was something wrong with it. And a lot of times we're not willing. We think that if we say something was wrong with it, that we're saying that our parents were bad. It's not
Right.
necessarily that
That
they were
everything was flawed the way we were raised.
right. And it's not necessarily everything was flawed. It was just, it was what it was, you know. And until we decide that it needs to be different and we're okay with that and not having to blame somebody, then I think it's better because nobody wants to say that their parents were bad. And it's not that they are bad. It's just
Right.
that they're doing it from a place of what they know until they can find out something better.
And it's so much easier to coach somebody on how to be proper, but it's harder to abide by those same rules.
Now that it is, it's almost like what's the saying? Do as I say, but not as I do.
Right.
Uh, yeah, it can be difficult, and it's a journey. It's almost like being an alcoholic or a drug addict. You know, you first have to say that I am a drug addict or I am an alcoholic, acknowledge it before you could actually get the help that you need, because now you're cognizant of what is going on in your life and what you're doing and how detrimental it could be. And it's a daily walk for them. It's the same way with us with aces because there are certain things that will still trigger you.
Right.
You just have to understand how to handle that trigger, that emotion that you feel or whatever. And that's some things that is difficult when you're parenting, because if you were yelled at all the time as a child, then more than likely you're going to yell at your child. And so, now they're growing up yelling at other people. And sometimes that turns into anger. So you have to deal with that as well. So,
Right. And it's a very hard thing to do because even if we don't notice it, we're passing most of those aces down to our children. Even if we're conscious enough to try to keep the aces, even the baddest aces, away from them,
right,
even the
right.
smallest ones will eat through the cracks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And like I say, it's a daily walk. Every day you're trying to learn how to control your emotions, how to handle them appropriately so that the issues you have you don't pass down. And sometimes, if you've got 10 aces, you still may pass one or two down to your kids, you know.
Right.
But the more we learn about it and the more we work at it, maybe we can stop it at some point in a couple of generations where we're not passing any down.
Right. Now, what are some ways you learn to discipline yourself?
Um, Sometimes I just need to walk away. I need to acknowledge that I need to process what you just said, and then can we come back at a later time and discuss it? For me, it used to be I had to say what I had to say. I didn't care how you felt about it. It didn't matter with me. I was gonna get it out. You were going to know. And it didn't matter if it hurt your feelings. I really didn't care. I was just going to say what I had to say. And I had to realize that a lot of times when I did that, there were things I said that I wished I hadn't said, but I
Right, you
couldn't.
regret it as soon as it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. And you already know that it's going to be some kind of repercussions to what I just said,
Right. There's always consequences for your actions.
most definitely. Most definitely. So I had to learn to realize, okay, if I feel myself getting upset or angered, then it's best for me to just say, hey, we're not going to solve anything here, us yelling at one another, or you know me getting upset and cursing you out or telling you off or whatever. I need time to process this. I need time to process it, and then can we talk about it later? And I even do that with my kids when they were little, younger. They would come to me with something, and inside I was boiling, and it was like, okay, uh, we can't talk about this right now. I'm gonna need some time to process all of this. And how about we talk about it later tonight or in the morning? What's gonna be better for you?
And that's a very hard thing to do.
It is. And sometimes I'll start, but then I realize that when the person's coming back at me, and when they're coming back at me from what I said, then it's like, okay, let's just stop this right now. Both think about it, calm down, and then come back. Because it's getting a little out of hand. But yeah, it takes a concerted effort. And like I say, sometimes you start it and then you realize it as you start it, and then I have to pull back.
Right. Right. Now, have you seen, or have in your years experience, have you gotten any mother-daughter couples that you felt relationship is beyond repair?
If I feel that way, I usually tell them you need to go seek counseling, professional counseling, um, because you're talking something that's going to be long term, and you really going to have to, because a lot of times it's basically because neither one of them trust. There's a lack of trust in the relationship, and it's going to take a while for them to repair it. There's things that they have to do individually as well as together. So it's my recommendation at that point, or if that's the reason why I like to do, have them do a questionnaire, and then we do like a consultation call so we can talk about those answers and everything, and where they're at, what the mom is thinking, and if they want the daughter involved at the time, what they're thinking, so I can make the determination, is this something that I can handle and work with you, or do you really need to seek some professional help? Because I don't want to take on something and do more damage than good, because I want you to have that relationship with your daughter. So if it takes them getting professional help, I have no problem then telling them, yeah, find you a good counselor. Go through as much as you need to, because all the time that first one isn't going to be the one, you know,
Right.
that
Shop around. It's like shopping around for a car. You got to pick the one that fits you.
exactly. And you'll know it, you'll feel it in your spirit. So, yeah, I don't have a problem telling them that, because there are some that come and it's like, whoo, you gonna need some professional help.
Now, why don't you tell us real quick what your message to the world is? If you can give one message that will reach everybody right now worldwide, what would that be?
Communication is the key. You've got to have open, honest dialogue, especially with our children, your children, whether they're 5 years old or whether they're 20. They really need their parents. And I know a lot of times parents think that the older your child gets, the less they need you. They need you just as much when they're a teen and a young adult as they do when they are 5 or 6. The only difference is they may need you a little more because you've got to maybe feed them, fix their food. And when you're older, you're a little bit more self sufficient. But they need you in their lives. Even though they may act like they don't, they do. And we need to be there to guide them and be a source for them to come to so that they can get the information that they need accurately, correctly, instead of going out trying to find it, from someone else who may not have their best interests at heart.
Right. Would you agree that there are different ways to communicate than just the
Oh, yeah.
traditional sit in front of me so I can act like I'm scolding you?
That lecturer type thing. Yeah. That
Right.
dictatorship type. It has to be. I know people say that you cannot be friends with your kids, but I disagree. I think you can be a friendship and still be able to set that boundary where they know we are friends, but there is a limit because I am your mother. Um, and I know sometimes, like my daughter, my oldest daughter, there's times when we'll be talking and she'll start talking and I'll do like this. They know me now. I'm like, stop. We're crossing the line right now. I'm still the mother. You're the daughter. I realize you're an adult, but you're the daughter. I'm gonna need you to back it up a little bit. And she'll sit there and she'll go, oh, yeah. Because she'll sometimes say, well, you need to you don't need
Pump
to tell
those
me
brakes.
Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Yeah, pump the brakes, exactly. Uh, but I think we need to, talk to them like you talk to your friend. Um, don't brush them off when they ask you a question. You just have to be able to communicate with them effectively at their age and for their maturity level. I mean, my oldest daughter at 10 years old came home and asked me a sex question, and it really it threw me off guard at 10.
I'm
And
glad at 7 I only got the my 7-year-old just gave us the flat earth question. So that one I'll take over the sex question all day
yeah,
long.
yeah, it was a sex question. It was a doozy, and it caught me off guard. And you don't want to give that facial expression. And there was a time when my face told it all. So I turned around and I was like, "Well, let me ask you, where did you hear about that from?" And she was like, "From some little girls at school because they were older. She was skipped a couple of grades
Okay.
um, because she was gifted, and so." Here she is 10 years old in a room with 13-year-olds who are talking about sex. And so I told her, I said, okay. I said, I can answer that. I said, but let me think about how I can explain it to you where you would understand as a 10-year-old. And she said, okay. I said, give me a minute. I said, go ahead on and change your clothes, put on your play clothes or whatever. I say, and I'm gonna go in my room and I'm gonna get out of my work clothes. And I say, by that time, I'll have a way that I can explain it to you. I went in my room, fell across my bed, and was like, I don't know how I'm gonna explain this to this 10-year-old.
Well, after you stopped crying, how did you figure that out?
Uh, being a nurse helped.
Okay.
And so I gave her the explanation. She had a couple of questions, and I just answered her. I didn't feel as though I had to give her everything. I gave her what I felt would get her to what she needed to know, get her where she needed to be with, knowing what it was and answer her questions. I didn't give her more information than she asked. If she asked, well, is it blue? Yep, it's blue. Well, yeah, it's blue, but sometimes it could be green and then sometimes it could be red. It's blue. And I think that's another thing. We think we have to give them all the information at one time. You sort of have to be like you're on a witness stand. Answer the question that they ask. That's it.
Right.
No more, no less.
No, I jumped the gun. I showed her what a blue waffle was. Don't Google that, by the way. Well, I don't know. I don't know how to follow that up. 10 years old.
Yeah.
Oof.
And that's the thing, and my philosophy is if they're old enough to ask, they're old enough to know. Because
Right.
if you don't give them the answer, they're gonna find it somewhere else. It was
And
like
it's,
with
they're
me.
getting younger and younger.
Yeah, yeah. I think about, when I wanted to ask my mom, well, kids at school are talking about sex, and what is it? Oh, you don't need to know. You're too young. That's not something we need to talk about. Let's think about it. If somebody tells us something that we don't need to know at a young age, you want to know why you don't need to know about it. So now you're going to go look, or you're going to ask somebody else who you think you can get the answer from. And it may not be the
Curiosity killed the
right answer.
cat. Right. And there's so many pornography sites out there that'll show them and scare them because
Exactly.
it's too much. And there's way too much weird shit on there to just let them have free reign.
Yeah. And I mean, at this point in society, with social media, like you're saying, and the internet and everything, they'll Google it in a minute
Hmm.
and look at stuff, but it's not the appropriate way for them to find out certain things than if we can tell them and
Right.
show them. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the information. It's paramount that we get these children on the right path, and
Absolutely.
communication is the key.
Absolutely.
Uh, where
Absolutely.
where can the viewers find you if they need advice on their relationships with their children?
They can find me. They can go to my website, SaundraGolden.com. They can even book a call with me, and we can talk about how I can help. They can purchase my book on that site. There's also where they can download a free guide. It's 8 proven methods to help them with communication. They can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and they can DM me on any of those platforms.
There you go. She's super accessible.
Yes,
And
yes.
here's your 12-step guide to self-love. Make sure you get that. Do you do a podcast yourself?
Nope, I don't. I don't.
You ever thought about doing one?
Thinking about it. Thinking
We're,
about it.
we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk. Thank you again, Miss Golden, for coming
Thank
on.
you
It,
for
it has
having me. I
been a
really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Oh, the pleasure has been all mine. Let me. Oh, look. I wasn't keeping up with the comments. I'm so sorry, there, YouTube land. Mother-daughter bonds have been studied for years,
Hmm.
and the information, it might be more there. They don't give me everything on on this little thing here. All right, thank you all for tuning in. These comments uh, are great for. Right. I don't have all. I'm not Sway. All right. See, Kanye said it like a couple weeks ago. He apologized because Sway has the answers. I don't. I don't got the answers. I'm trying to learn them. So Sway, hit me up. I'm trying to learn those answers. Thank you all for tuning in. Sandra, give me 1 minute. Let me close this out.
Okay.
See you in a second. There you have it. I never lie. I tell you, every week we're going to have a great guest for you. We're going to have information out the wazoo for you to take home and for you to use. The only thing that you have to do is tune in every Friday. We're going to have these guests for you. We're going to have the information for you. It's going to be here. It's going to be accessible. And it's going to only be on Talking Junk Network. And remember, communication is key. So let them talk their junk.